Today, I will show you a comedy drama film from 2014, titled The Angriest Man in Brooklyn. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In 1989, Henry Altman is a very happy man, enjoying the perfect life with his wife, Bette Altman, and his 2 young kids. 25 years later, however, show that he has become an extremely angry, bitter, and resentful guy since the sudden death of his oldest son 2 years ago. On the way to his doctor's appointment, he gets stuck in traffic, and when he finally gets out of it, his car is struck by a cab, which causes him to unleash his fury on the driver Beck, threatening to revoke his license and even making racist comments about him. To make matters worse, when Henry finally arrives at the hospital, he is left waiting 2 hours for his appointment. In the meantime, Dr. Sharon Gill is having an awful day. Her cat has recently died. Someone spills coffee on her at the bus, and she is overwhelmed with patients because she is covering Dr. Fielding's shift, who asked her for this favor while sleeping with her in the hospital's boiler room. Sharon is emotionally exhausted, not caring for her patients like she used to when she was a new doctor and thought she could make a difference in the world, and she even takes pills to be able to go through her day. Her next patient is Henry, who starts complaining as soon as he sees her, only stopping his insults when she informs him he has a big brain aneurysm by the brainstem, which means he doesn't have much time left to live. Sharon wants him to go see a neurologist for any further details that only a specialist can give him, but Henry gets angry and demanding again, pressuring her into telling him exactly how much time he has left. Feeling cornered, Sharon panics and uses the first number she sees on a magazine cover. 90 minutes. Henry finds the idea ridiculous and enraging, so after promising to get her fired, he leaves the hospital and takes a cab after discovering the tire of his car is flat. While waiting for the driver to escape the traffic, the first stage of grief, denial, slowly leaves his mind as he starts to accept he truly only has until 6:22 to live, and he should be deciding what to do with this little precious time left. Back in the hospital, Sharon realizes she has made a huge mistake and tries to contact Henry at his home and office. To no avail. Feeling incredibly guilty, she discusses the problem with her coworker Dr. Jordan Reed and reaches the conclusion she needs to go out there and find Henry to properly admit him into the hospital and make him Fielding's problem before she ends up losing her license. While trying to get a cab to go to Henry's office, Jordan calls her and tells her two very important things. Henry's file is full of complaints, so his credibility is almost null. And after showing the scans to a friend of his in radiology, he has learned that Henry has already got bleeding through his walls, which means he truly could drop dead at any second. Either way, Sharon needs to find him before he either dies or destroys her career. Unsure of what to do next, Henry goes to the office of the law firm he manages with his brother Aaron Altman and interrupts the meeting he's having with 2 clients to ask for advice on what he should tell a client of his to do after learning he only has 90 minutes left to live. Various ideas are shared: going to a temple, going to a massage parlor to hire a hustler, going to the best restaurant in town, or even killing someone for the good of society. The one that resonates with him though, as he watches the pictures that decorate the office, is making love to his wife and spending the last moments with his family. Because at the end of the day is all we have. He tries to rush out of the office to go visit them, but Aaron stops him, wondering why his brother doesn't count as family too. He thinks Henry has gotten worse lately, and finds the idea of him visiting his family ridiculous. He has done nothing but fight with his wife for the last 2 years, and his oldest son won't even talk to him. Aaron thinks reconciliation in 90 minutes is impossible and Henry should choose the harlot. A comment that makes Henry laugh and hug Aaron before leaving, after asking his secretary to call the 25 most important people from his youth and ask them to meet them in a restaurant. In 30 minutes, Henry makes a to-do list that includes writing his own obituary, getting drunk, and contacting his son Tommy, who he hasn't spoken to in a long time after. A huge argument about his future. Henry had paid for the finest law education. But Tommy didn't want to be a lawyer and work with his dad and uncle, he wanted to be a dancer. Henry was furious about this, especially since he had already printed business cards with the family name appearing 3 times on it to represent him, Aaron, and Tommy, but Tommy quickly pointed out that Henry had done that with his now dead son, Peter, in mind. He wasn't Peter. He had other dreams, and Henry sent him away while wishing him good luck with ruining his life. Since then, Tommy has opened a very successful dance academy, which Henry tries to call in order to talk to him, but Tommy refuses to do so and orders his receptionist to take the message. Sharon arrives at the Altman offices and talks to Aaron, telling him about what happened even if it goes against confidentiality laws, because she considers it an exceptional emergency. Aaron accepts to help her find him, although he is a bit skeptical when he hears that for Henry not to die of an aneurysm soon, he needs to stay calm and avoid fits of anger. After buying a bouquet of flowers, Henry goes to see his wife, who is having tea with their neighbor Frank. He tries to kick him out so he can make love to Bet, and he says this aloud, making her freak out at his sudden outburst, especially since they haven't touched each other in 2 years. Bet doesn't think he can make up for years of being horrible to her with a rushed moment of intimacy, and as their argument begins to get more heated and the subject of Peter's death comes up, Better begins crying and admits that since Henry has been emotionally unavailable since they lost their son, she's been having an affair with Frank. Furious, Henry leaves the house as Bet throws the flowers he has bought her at the door. Aaron and Sharon arrive at the house shortly after he leaves because they paid a taxi driver a lot of extra cash to go over the speed limits and take them there in seconds. They tell Bet what is happening and she tries to contact Henry on the phone while Sharon admires their family pictures, which makes her hate Henry even more for pretending to be the perfect family man while she's lonely because her divorced parents are away in another state. At that moment, the office secretary contacts Aaron and tells him about the party he's planning. So they immediately leave to try to catch him there. Henry tries to call Tommy's academy again. And the song that plays while he call waits reminds him of a party they had 2 years ago, where he danced with Bet and Tommy to the same song until a cop arrived and destroyed their good mood with the news of Peter's death. When the receptionist finally picks up his call and tells him Tommy left for lunch, Henry gets furious and starts yelling at him, demanding to talk to his son and causing the receptionist to hang up. This makes him even angrier and leads him to throw his cell phone on the ground, breaking it. Afterward, he runs through the streets of Brooklyn to get to the restaurant his secretary had reserved for the party, only to get shocked and sad to see the only person that has come is his school best friend Bix Field, who he hasn't seen in 43 years. Henry tells him he has less than an hour left to live, and while at first Bix shows his sympathy, soon he just starts talking about himself and stupid details of his lazy life, even having the nerve to bring up a high school crush that he claims Henry stole from him back then. They end up arguing and insulting each other before Henry leaves, since obviously, this party is not going to happen as such. Once again, Aaron and the women arrive a second too late. So they decide to split to cover more ground. Aaron goes back to the office, Bet to her house, and Sharon is left wandering the streets alone with thoughts full of regrets. There isn't much time left, and Henry doesn't think he can arrive at the academy building on time. So he enters an electronics shop and buys a video camera after a long and frustrating talk with the clerk, who was a stutterer and took forever to describe the different models until finding one Henry could use without having to recharge the battery first. He has no experience using video cameras though, so Henry approaches a group of tramps and asks one of them to record him. Henry begins talking to Tommy, telling him how he never stopped loving him and admitting how wrong he was. And as he starts mentioning all the regrets he carries, like listening to his own father and Pushing Bet away, the subject of Peter comes up, causing him to enter another fit of anger. That triggers his aneurysm and knocks him out. When he wakes up some minutes later, he arrives at the conclusion that he can't even tell his son he loves him without boiling in rage. After a lot of thinking, Bet calls Tommy and tells him what's going on with Henry, making him feel bad for not having taken his calls. Meanwhile, Sharon calls her mother to tell her she has had a bad day and needs someone with a friendly ear to talk to. But her mother only cares about asking her for pills and her own problems, so Sharon cuts the conversation short. At that moment, she hears Henry's furious voice and follows it into an alley where he finds the tramp with the video camera re-watching the failed recording. Desperate to find him, Sharon finally stops using the replacement for Fielding excuse and admits Henry is her responsibility, so she gives all her pills to the man in exchange for information. The tramp tells her Henry has gone to the Brooklyn Bridge to jump into the river, and Sharon wastes no time in going after him. At the bridge, Henry remembers the day he visited it with young Tommy and they danced together under the rain, but that memory is soon followed by the day adult Tommy left him, so Henry gives up and gets ready to jump. Sharon arrives then and tells him the 90 minutes were never real before confessing all the trouble she has been going through, so he can see she is being sincere in her desire to help him, pointing out that if he jumps, both their lives will be irrevocably ruined. While she thinks 90 minutes are a random, meaningless number, Henry considers them important because they have given him a new life perspective, and since those 90 minutes aren't over yet, he decides to jump off the bridge to finish his time before it runs out on its own. As he falls, he finally realizes every minute of your life counts and can offer something meaningful and outstanding, but sadly, he has this thought right before dying, and that makes him extra angry. Sharon doesn't give up though, and she runs to the shore to follow Henry's floating body. After taking off her jacket, she jumps into the water and swims toward Henry to grab him and drag him back to land with her. She wants to quickly take him to the hospital, but since he still has 19 minutes left from the original 90, Henry wants to see his son first. Sharon offers him a deal. She will take him to his son, but he has to promise to stay calm for the sake of his health, and after the family reunion is done, Henry must let her take him to the hospital without complaints. Henry accepts the deal. While Tommy continues to call his father to no avail, Henry and Sharon take a cab that is going at a snail's pace and turns on the air conditioner instead of the heater. Henry realizes then the driver is Oleg, who is taking his opportunity to get his revenge for what happened earlier in the morning. He starts arguing with Henry and even uses pepper spray on them, so Henry bites him before getting out of the car to fight him directly, before any of the men can make a move though. A furious Sharon grabs the pepper spray and uses it on Oleg before kicking him while he's on the ground. Then she orders Henry to get in the car and together, they steal the cab, leaving Oleg behind. Sharon isn't a very good driver, but she manages to dodge a bus coming their way before they begin talking about Aaron, Henry's sons, and sibling relationships, which Sharon never had. When she was younger, she was never bothered by the fact she was an only child. But now she wonders who will be there for her in the important moments, like death. Suddenly, they notice the street ahead of them is empty, so Sharon makes the car go as fast as possible, which only causes them to be stopped by the police a moment later. She tries to explain that this is an emergency and she is a doctor, but since she doesn't have any kind of identification, the cop doesn't buy her story. Henry tells him all about the crazy day he's had, not leaving out any detail, and the cop then accepts Henry is indeed crazy and needs medical attention. But he still requests some kind of identification. Sharon gets an idea then. Remembering she still has her phone with her, she calls Jordan and makes him talk to the cop, so he can confirm their identities. Hearing the official word from a hospital finally convinces the officer that this is an emergency, and he even offers to escort them back to the hospital. But as soon as he takes off in his car, Sharon takes the opposite direction. Luckily, they make it to the academy before time runs out. Henry finds Tommy listening to the song they danced to that day on the bridge and asks him to repeat that dance with him now. Tommy obviously accepts, and as they begin to dance together, he uses the opportunity to hug his father again after 2 years. Afterward, Sharon takes Henry to the hospital as they had planned. And on their way there, he asks her what she would do if she knew when she was going to die. Sharon thinks she would try to be happy, and Henry replies she should be doing that now already before gifting her his father's watch. Henry Altman lives for 8 days after that, and he spends them at the hospital reconnecting with Bette, Tommy, and Aaron. During those 8 days, he doesn't get angry, not even once, except at the very end when he insults death for coming for him. Sharon quits her job that same day, and she also quits her pills before getting a new job at a free clinic where she can help people properly the way she's always wanted. She also adopts a cat and starts dating Aaron, and sometime later, the two of them, plus Tommy, his girlfriend, Bette, and Frank go on a ferry trip to spread Henry's ashes on the East River. When the captain sees them do this, he scolds them for it, so they reply by berating him the way Henry would have done.